Hey everyone, and welcome to Hump Day. Welcome on this wonderful Wednesday with some lovely news of the Planet Zoo Africa pack. And we just got a new screenshot today, but that's not only the reason why we want to talk. It is also because there were a couple of screenshots and information that I haven't been covering yesterday, simply because I didn't have these info prior to recording it. So today we are going to look above these wonderful screenshots we have over here. And at the end, I will talk about my personal opinion of the Africa pack. Here's a little spoiler, it's my favorite pack so far. If you want to find out why, stick with me till the end. But first of all, let's talk about these wonderful creatures in this frame over here. And these obviously are the Meerkat, or shall I say this is a female adult Meerkat and two baby Meerkats. Now, if you have seen yesterday's screenshot, which is that one, you can tell how small these fellows are. And now, if you see the comparison to the babies, you can imagine how tiny the babies are. Now, this is especially interesting because I wasn't really considering that they make a difference with the babies. Now, babies in Planet Zoo are a specific topic that many people have been discussing about quite a lot, and I do agree to some things. I don't agree or disagree with a lot of other things, but one thing I do agree with is, for example, that animals like the red panda, they lack a proper juvenile. Let's be honest. The red panda, for example, does not really have a baby that is a baby. It's basically a not even recognizably smaller version of the red panda, and you just have to click it in order to understand if it's a juvenile or not. And that doesn't really go into what they said at the very beginning with the idea that you can spot everything from far away. Now, the reason why they did this was always argued with the fact it's getting too tiny. Now, I guess that's basically something that we can, basically ignore now, because these animals prove us wrong, or like this opinion wrong. It seems to be different now, and this is why I'm extremely amazed about today's reveal, even though we have seen the Meerkat already. And this is one of the things I'm mostly hyped about, that they go a lot smaller now with habitat animals, which is pretty amazing to see. And I would even argue that the baby Meerkat is potentially even smaller than a green iguana, which is in fact a habitat animal, so an exhibit animal, which is pretty interesting. Now, the next thing I want to talk about in this image is obviously the absolutely incredible realization of the Meerkat. Now, Meerkat is obviously one of the most favorite animals when it comes to zoo builders and just in general when it comes to zoos. Now, people love these tiny little animals digging the hole through the whole habitat and, just moving around quickly, standing, looking around in the area and just enjoying their time in the sun. Now, this animal looks really fantastic, if you ask me. It is even more of a realistic approach to the animal and less cartoony. And I think it is a pattern that Frontier has, fortunately, and I think in my opinion really it is the right way. They are continuing to drop the comic-y appeal of some of the animals that used to be in, for example, the lion. And don't get me wrong, I love the lion in Planet Zoo, but it definitely is not the most realistic lion when it comes to comparisons with the real life version of, or like the real life lion. It is a bit more Planko or Plan Zoo-ified version of the lion, but I love the fact that they go away from it and that they do the animals as realistic as possible, because that's what we're here for, realistic, great animals. And I'm really happy this is a continuing pattern that we can spot in the recent DLCs, and I just love the realization of the Meerkat as we can spot it in here. There's not much more to see. I'm quite sure that this is new grass in the background we haven't potentially seen. I thought it is this bush in the background sunken into the ground, but it definitely isn't. That's a different one. Can't really tell what exactly that is. I'm not the expert of plants, and people told me in yesterday's video I said that some plants are already existing in the game. I double checked, they are not. Some palm trees were actually new that I mentioned. So let's go back into the next picture. This is all from yesterday, but I haven't covered this, so let's go over so you guys get a better idea of why I am so amazed about this pack. Now, here's another version of the Meerkat. You can see that, and in the background you can see these fellows over here. And as I said, it was really hard to tell if there are any babies among them, and now we can safely say that there is no baby among them. Maybe that tiny one here on the left hand side potentially is one, but we are not really sure about that. we can see a lot of the new pieces again in the background. And then again, these plants definitely are some to fool us. These are the ones that existed in the game. And I think in this shot over here, there's no new plant in. Let's move on to the next picture. And that is the one and only, so far, of the Fennec Fox version. Now, the Fennec Fox is a very cute animal, a very interesting animal as well. And I have to admit that I had no idea of its existence before people were talking about this a couple of months ago, talking about potential Africa packs and stuff like that, and before I did the implied habitat of it. Now, I'm very interested, first of all, if it will go into my Yosemite habitat, if that's gonna work. However, again, this model looks very neat. I saw that one on the left first, that just sparks your attention in the first glance, but and this kept me worried for a split second, but then I saw the version here in the background and it looks really good, and again, very realistic, and they are tiny. I mean, this is a new enrichment item, most obviously. That's a tennis ball, and tennis balls are small, very small, and you can see how small these animals are, which again brings me to a very positive point we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. Now, and there's one more piece I just figured a couple of times after looking at it. Obviously some new walls in the background, but then again there is a robe, and this seems to be a different color. Now, this is a question if we do get new robes or if this is the existing in-game robe, which is now flexi color. That would be interesting to know, but at least it is a robe that has different colors, and this is not it's not a color option or whatever. It's not a weird shading. This is definitely somewhat, I don't know if that's red or brown and a bit more yellow. This is definitely existing. And yeah, I just love the model. It's really looking really good. Now, next image we can go over really quickly. There's not that much more to see in here in terms of animals, but we can tell that there's a lot of great stuff in here, like statues, a very nice pattern of the wall, very nice different little elements with the Meerkat, this Scarab Beetle, and another Meerkat. It's like a bit of Egyptian style in here as well, very neat. I like that a lot, and yeah, it sparked some inspiration for me. Really cool stuff, but again, there's not just so much to talk about. But the next one, the next image gives a tiny bit more to talk about, and first of all, there's a lot in this picture to see. So first of all, the palm tree indeed is new. We don't have that big of a palm tree of this version. The one we have is smaller, and it is not really looking the same with the leaves, so that's definitely a different one. And the other thing we can see is a lot of mosaic kind of tiles, which potentially or most likely are flexicolor. I like that, it's really cool. And then we have this fountain, and at the beginning I thought, okay, this is kind of a fountain piece that is using some VFX, but I'm quite sure this is VFX already included with this piece. The same goes for that one in the background, because we don't have that small VFX waterfall effect in the game. The ones we have are just way wider, and yeah, very interesting. Again, it's always nice to have some new water pieces, as you know. I love my water in the game, and it's very good to have some pieces that have water included. And we see again a rope in the background with some seems like a different one with some hanging things to it, and it looks to be the same color as we saw just briefly beforehand. Yeah, and again, new wall set, very nice. Again, very African inspired, in Morocco inspired, I would say. It's most likely the architecture is Morocco style. I guess this is the closest you can get. But yet again, there's a lot more to see, and I can't wait for this pack. It really looks to be pretty amazing. Now, this picture over here, that one is really interesting. That one is, at the first glance, maybe a bit overwhelming, but I'm not going too crazy into detail because that's going to take too long, and you can look yourself. There's not even that much to see. But first of all, let's go with the obvious things. We have the Southern White Rhinoceros, and it looks great from this shot already, but we will talk about that in the next frame when there is the real one. There's the one with a closer look at it. But I want to talk a little bit more about the foliage. This over here looks like the olive tree, and I really hope that we get different sizes of that one as always, but that looks to be like an olive tree. These are the new palm trees, as you can see. These are different ones. They're looking a lot more fuzzy to the top. Seems to be different size versions. You can see there is one, there's another one. So seems to be again new foliage, and I think that's all of the new foliage I can spot. This is also an olive tree. It looks to be smaller than that one, but with the perspective that might be different. But In this shot, you can see how many different pieces it seems to be in this pack of the Moroccan or like the African set. We have a lot of different window versions. We can now tell that this is not a prefab piece. It looks to be that this kind of, I don't know, lettuce or whatever this is in here is actually in the piece and not part of the piece, because you can see there is an open one here. So very interesting stuff to spot at. Anyways, there's not that much more to see in this picture apart from a lot of pieces, as you can tell. Not all of these pieces are new. There are some very nice Indian pieces mixed into it. So you can see the bike, for example, here, or there's this kind of motorcycle thingy. But all in all, this looks, oof. Yeah, you can hear it already from my excitement in my voice. This is going to be absolutely great. Anyways, let's go over to the next one, as obviously the Southern White Rhinoceros. And now, I have no idea if I pronounced that completely correctly, but we have a bit of a closer look here to the olive. And I think that's a different tree. It's not the olive one. I have no idea what kind of tree that is, but it's a different one. And this is the rhino over here. Now, of course, this is one of the most endangered animals on this planet, and it is therefore also a favorite that many people wanted to see, because whatever is happening with the species, it is maybe good to have it in, and we all hope that we will never say it's an extinct species in the game, but they're obviously very close to extinction. There's a lot of great stuff happening, or like great stuff, at least what people try to keep these species alive. But this model looks really, really good to me. The only thing I'm really not sure about, and it might be the screenshot, so it's the benefit of the doubt, but it looks a little bit washed out here around the facial portion of it, and I'm quite confident that that is actually only the screenshot, because you can see all the details. I love the little herring here around the ears, and again, this is a pattern that continued for the last couple of updates and DLCs of Planet Zoo. Now, the reason why I say that is that I have seen an ongoing improvement in the models. The shading, and as I said, like I was pretty sure that I have made an improvement in the shaders of the fur, for example. A lot of things that, you know, at the beginning were very strange with the lion and stuff, and they have actually improved that over time. They got a lot better in using their shaders to create basically fur or hair. So remember the Binturong, which was a bit of a, let's call it the Binturong gate. Well, there was a little bit of a problem with the Binturong, obviously, because people disliked the first version, including me. It was really not good looking, and it was potentially the worst version of an animal that Frontier did so far. It was still good quality in terms of overall model, but it wasn't great and was not really close to real life. But actually, then the improved version is one of my favorite versions in the game now, simply because of the usage of the shader and of the fur shader and stuff. So I think they really made a huge step forward when it comes to hair and stuff. Maybe also feathering, who knows, for the Jurassic World Evolution 2. But in general, they made a huge step forward. Now, let's talk briefly about the fact why I love this update so much. Now, I should say DLC. The update 1.6 is also very solid, but it's a free update, and we all love free stuff, but this one is stuff where you have to spend your money on. Now, it is actually a job to recommend some stuff if people are here to, you know, get my, for whatever reason, but they like my opinion. Now, for me personally, this is the best pack yet. Now, why? Pretty simple. Because I think, and we haven't even spoken about the exhibit animal, which I think is a funny one, but I don't really talk too much about exhibit animals. Anyways, it's a nice addition, it's there, so let's make a check mark. But let's talk about the 4 habitat animals. Now, every pack so far had the same pattern for me, and I talked about that already in a last video about updates and stuff. I always thought there was like a hero animal, then there was a second best animal, then there was a, let's say, surprising one, a surprise choice, and then there was a more boring but yet welcome addition. That was always the same pattern. You can see that in the South America one, you can see this in the Arctic one, and so on and so forth. Now, Aquatic obviously changed things a little bit, but this is the first DLC where I think all 4 animals are equally great. Simply because they all have such a different impact to your game. Now, let's start with this dude in front of us. Now, this Southern Southern White Rhinoceros is obviously the biggest of all of them and requires the biggest habitat, and it's the one that definitely shares the same skeleton and rig with the other rhino in the game. However, it is definitely a very interesting and very, very expensive and also very hard to contain animal. And therefore a very nice addition to any zoo you build, because it's such a such a magnet for guests, and also so important to basically conserve. So a very, very, very important animal when it comes to a zoo game. And of course a Zoo Tycoon 2 favorite, Zoo Tycoon 1 favorite, and so on and so forth. Then we talk about, let's skip forward to these animals. Let's talk first about the one that is not in here. That's the African penguin. Now the African penguin obviously adds to the roster of I don't want to call it marine animal, mostly diving animals. So a very aquatic one. We haven't seen this yet. After the aquatic pack, the Southeast Asia animal pack did not contain a diving animal. Well, now it does, but this is only, you know, added by the diving for the sun bear, but it didn't. And now we have a smaller one that is diving, and we can also say that the African penguin is one of the zoo favorite. So it is definitely one of the coolest additions to the game, haha. Not only because it's in water and stuff, but it is just a very, very nice addition, and it's rather small, which you will see in a second is a very important information. Then we have this dude over here, the Fennec Fox, which is again a fan favorite. It's a very interesting animal. It is a new addition because it's also very small and requires a smaller area. And it also is a kind of a very social animal, so that's also pretty neat. And then we have the Meerkat, of course, to round this all off. And the Meerkat is obviously the hero because it definitely brings in a lot of new things. It is the smallest animal so far in the game, habitat animal. It is a completely new animal when it comes to the digging, which is a new behavior in the game. They do require some stuff. They have new enrichment items, potentially, as it always comes with the game like that. And you know, for example, the tennis ball. And just in general, I am very happy because these animals are quite small, and you can on a rather small footprint of your zoo, you can make some very interesting habitats with them. And then on top of this, we have a very, very useful set of pieces, as it seems. Now it is super flexicolor. You can build whatever you want because as we know, African pieces are most likely very convertible into other themes as well. So an overall package, this is a super solid one where I wouldn't drop anything out of it, and that's the first time I can say that. It's the first DLC where I wouldn't drop any single thing out of it. Now it is obviously going to have the challenge to prove my initial expectation here, but I'm quite confident it does. So all in all, I'm super positive and I'm super happy about this DLC. It's gonna be my favorite, I'm quite sure about that. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. Now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful hump day, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Stay safe, everyone.